Imagine your favorite NFL franchise just handed a 21-year-old kid, like $35 million in guaranteed money.
Right.
The ink is completely dry on the contract. The commissioner just gave him the big hug on the draft stage. The confetti has literally settled on the ground.
It's the peak of the mountain for these guys.
It really is. And, what is the league's brilliant, time-tested plan to develop this multi-million-dollar franchise-altering asset? They lock him in a metaphorical gym for 4 months.
Yep, just lock him away.
They let him run around in shorts, and they strictly forbid him from playing the actual sport of professional football under, live conditions.
I mean, it sounds like financial and athletic malpractice when you put it that bluntly.
It really does.
You acquire the most vital piece of your company's future, and your immediate operational protocol is just to put them on ice.
Yeah.
Right during the exact window when they're primed to learn the fastest.
It is the absolute definition of the agony of anticipation. And I want you, listening to this deep dive right now, to really put yourself in that headspace for a second.
We've all been there.
You are staring at a sports calendar in late May or early June. The draft is a distant memory. The actual season kickoff in September feels like this complete mirage.
And you're just sitting there scrolling through your phone.
Exactly. Just wishing there was meaningful football on your television. Instead, you get force-fed these manufactured, completely hypothetical storylines because there is just no actual product on the field.
Which is a massive void.
What?
And, the nature of modern sports media is that it completely abhors a void.
Oh, absolutely.
Broadcasters, writers, analysts, they have all these hours of airtime to fill, so they end up meticulously dissecting a rookie quarterback's new haircut as a sign of his, maturity.
Right.
Simply because they have absolutely zero tape of him throwing a football against a professional defense.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today we are exploring a source text from the Film Room Remix that proposes a radical, system-altering solution to this exact agonizing waiting period.
It's a really brilliant concept.
Yes, it is. The concept is basically this. What if the NFL launched a highly televised post-draft summer league?
Modeled kind of after the NBA's Summer League, right?
Yes, modeled conceptually after the NBA's, but adapted fundamentally into an elite, high-octane 7-on-7 flag football tournament for the skill players.
And we can't forget the big guys.
Never.
Mm-hmm.
Alongside a parallel, heavily scrutinized event called the Trench Olympics for the massive linemen.
It's a genuinely fascinating proposal. I mean, it forces us to slow down and ask a really critical question about the sport.
Which is?
Could the machine of professional football actually operate better? Not just by tweaking the rules of the existing season, but by structurally remixing the entire off-season developmental pipeline.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We are going to meticulously examine the rules, the underlying economics, and the sheer developmental genius of this hypothetical NFL Summer Sevens.
It's a lot of layers to it.
There are. We're going to evaluate if this system could fundamentally remix how professional sports operate. But before we get into the X's and O's of 7-on-7 flag football, we have to establish why the NFL would even entertain building a new league from scratch.
Right, because to understand the why, you really have to understand the NFL's relentless, almost gravitational pull toward total calendar dominance.
They want to own every month.
They really do. The source text points out that the league already controls roughly 9 months of the year. But let's actually break down what those 9 months look like mechanically, because it illustrates the sheer scale of their operation.
Please do, because honestly, it feels like football never really leaves the news cycle.
It doesn't. But the type of football changes drastically. You have the regular season and the postseason, which takes you from September through the Super Bowl in February.
That's the actual real product.
Exactly. But then, the NFL has brilliantly monetized the preparation phase. Immediately after the Super Bowl, you roll right into the scouting combine in Indianapolis.
Right, which for the casual fan just looks like a bunch of incredibly fit guys running the 40-yard dash in spandex. But mechanically, what is the combine actually doing for the league?
Mechanically, the combine is purely a medical and biometric baseline test. I mean, it is not football.
Not at all.
It's an evaluation of fast-twitch muscle fibers, lateral agility, and pre-existing joint damage. The scouts aren't out there watching a linebacker read a complex offensive formation.
They're watching him jump over a standardized bar.
Exactly, to measure his vertical explosion. It's just a raw physical audit.
Okay, so they pass the physical audit, then what happens?
Then you have pro days, where college programs script these highly choreographed, zero-pressure workouts for their specific athletes.
Oh, yeah, the scripted throws.
Right. The quarterback gets to throw like 50 passes to his own college receivers with literally no defense on the field. It's entirely designed to make him look flawless.
And following that is the draft in late April, which is a massive 3-day television spectacle. And then finally, we hit OTAs, organized team activities, and spring training.
But let me stop you there, because fans hear OTAs, and they think the team is out there playing full-contact football in May.
Yeah, they picture guys hitting each other.
Right. But mechanically, what is actually happening on the field during an OTA? Very little actual football, legally speaking.
Because of the union, right.
Yes. The collective bargaining agreement heavily restricts OTAs. Players are in helmets and shorts. There is absolutely no live contact, no tackling.
So nobody is getting blocked to the ground.
No one. It is essentially an 11-on-11 walkthrough designed to just install the basic vocabulary of the playbook.
So the rookies are really just trying to figure out where the cafeteria is?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And how to line up in the right formation without getting yelled at by a veteran.
So by the time May ends, these players have essentially declared they are no longer college athletes. They belong to the professional ecosystem. They've been poked, prodded, measured, drafted, and handed a playbook.
And then the machine just shuts down. We hit the wall, June rolls around, July bakes us in the sun, and we get an absolute desert of content. We get think pieces. We get reporters standing outside of empty practice facilities.
It's brutal.
It is. And this is where the Film Room Remix proposal strikes absolute gold. It recognizes a fundamental truth of the American sports consumer.
Which is that no single person in the history of television has ever complained by asking, what if there was more football?
Exactly. I mean, I'm struggling to see how the NFL hasn't capitalized on this sooner. People create entire alternative leagues like the XFL or the USFL, specifically trying to survive in that post-draft summer desert.
Right. The demand is totally proven. The logic of this proposal is brutally simple. Why should the NFL allow rival startup leagues or completely different sports to occupy the attention of their fan base during the summer?
They shouldn't. They should just monopolize those remaining months with a compelling storyline of actual, verifiable football content featuring their newest stars.
And the proposal targets a very specific window, right? Mid-May to early June, right after the draft. Mechanically speaking, what is the physical state of a newly drafted rookie in mid-May?
Oh, this is the biological genius of the timing. Think about the preparation these rookies have just endured. From January to April, they have been training with elite, private performance coaches.
Specifically to showcase their peak athletic ability at the combine and pro days.
Exactly. They have been on strict diets, optimized sleep schedules, rigorous weightlifting programs. Being out of shape is not a problem.
They're machines at that point.
Physically, they are likely in the most explosive, finely tuned condition of their entire lives at that exact moment.
Wait, let me make sure I'm translating this correctly for the listener. We are taking a 21-year-old athlete at the absolute zenith of their physical conditioning, drafting them, and then essentially telling them to go sit on the couch for 2 months until late July training camp.
That's exactly what happens.
It's like buying a $35 million Formula One car. You've run it on the dyno machine in the garage. The mechanics have checked all the telemetry. The engine is humming perfectly.
And
instead of putting a driver in the seat and taking it to a track to see how it actually handles hairpin turns at 150 miles per hour, you just cover it with a tarp in your driveway and stare at it until September.
That is a phenomenal analogy.
Yeah.
Because you are highlighting the difference between testing baseline specs and testing application.
Right.
The current off-season only tests the baseline specs. The Summer Sevens League's taking the Formula One car to the track. It tests the application of the machinery in a live, competitive environment.
I love the concept, but I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. I want to push back on this assumption of infinite demand. Is it possible to oversaturate the market?
That's a fair question.
Football is a violent, exhausting sport to watch, emotionally speaking. Are we underestimating the fatigue factor? Is the appetite for live football truly bottomless, or will fans just tune out if the games don't count toward the Super Bowl?
This raises an important point, and it's the exact debate the NFL's broadcasting executives would have in a boardroom. However, the data consistently suggests that the appetite is bottomless, provided the stakes are localized and the product is compelling.
So it has to look good.
Right. And what's fascinating here is how aggressively this proposed league competes for a specific sports window. Look at the competitive landscape from mid-May to early June. What is actually on television?
Well, you've got early season Major League Baseball, a few NBA and NHL playoff games scattered throughout the week, but mostly it's pretty quiet.
Exactly. Baseball in May is a marathon. The urgency of a Tuesday night game is relatively low. The sports window is wide open.
So the NFL can just walk right in.
Yeah. Instead of an analyst typing up a fabricated think piece, they could be on the sidelines, mic'd up, watching the #1 overall draft pick throw live routes against the #1 overall cornerback.
You are testing theories in real time.
Exactly. Can this highly touted college receiver actually separate from a professional defensive back? It doesn't need to count toward the Super Bowl to be compelling. It counts toward validating the hype.
So the consequence of that is an entirely new viewership trend. If you're a fan, you aren't just hoping your team's draft pick is good. You are watching them prove it under bright lights months before the season.
It is a total anticipation goldmine.
But here is the major hurdle. You can't just throw rookies onto a field in May in full pads and say, play. The NFL Players Association would shut it down in 5 seconds.
Oh, absolutely. The structure has to be meticulously designed to prioritize safety and evaluation over sheer violence. Which brings us to the actual blueprint of the Summer Sevens.
Let's get into the mechanics of this blueprint, because what the Film Room Remix outlines is definitely not traditional 11-on-11 Sunday football. How are we building these rosters?
First, we have to look at eligibility. The source text strictly restricts participation to rookies and second-year players. It's purely a developmental showcase.
Wait, I remember seeing a very specific exception in the text, something about third-year players.
Yes, a third-year player is only allowed to participate if they missed an entire first or second year due to a season-ending injury.
Oh, wow. That completely changes the dynamic of the roster. It acts as a rehabilitation showcase.
It really does.
Imagine a highly drafted player who tore his ACL on the second day of his rookie training camp. We never got to see him. He's been rehabbing in the dark for a year and a half.
And this summer league becomes his grand reintroduction to the world.
Exactly. He gets to knock the rust off in a controlled environment before being thrown to the wolves in a real regular season game.
It provides immense value to the player's confidence and the front office's evaluation. But, the core of the league remains the young blood, the fresh draft class, and the sophomores looking to solidify their standing on the depth chart.
So we have our pool of eligible players. Now we have to build the offense and the defense. And here is where the concept gets wildly different from a Sunday broadcast. The massive 300-pound offensive and defensive linemen, poof, gone.
They are completely off this specific field.
For the 7-on-7 game, yes, the trenches are removed. The game is distilled down to just the skill players operating in space.
Right. The proposed offensive roster consists of 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and 1 tight end.
That is an immense amount of pure speed on the field at one time.
It is entirely built to test speed, processing, and spatial awareness. And to counter that offensive speed, the defense is stripped down to its back 7. 3 linebackers, 2 cornerbacks, and 2 safeties.
Okay, so we have 7 offensive players who run a 4.4-second 40-yard dash and 7 defensive players designed to chase them down. But we aren't putting them on a standard 100-yard NFL field, are we? The source details a very condensed field geometry.
The field dimensions are crucial to the mechanical success of this evaluation. The proposal calls for 50 yards of actual playing field, flanked by 2 10-yard end zones, so a total length of 70 yards.
Why shrink the field in half? Doesn't that hurt the evaluation? I mean, if I draft a wide receiver because he runs a 4.2 and can catch 88 bombs, why would I want him playing on a 50-yard field?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture of how NFL offenses actually operate, compressing the field is a brilliant design choice.
How so?
A 100-yard field in a non-contact scenario allows a really fast receiver to simply outrun coverage in a straight line, which masks poor fundamental route running. In the actual NFL, 80-yard bombs are rare. Most of the game is played in tight, congested spaces, specifically the red zone.
So a 50-yard field turns the entire game into a high-leverage red zone simulation?
Precisely. In a 50-yard playing area, the throwing windows are mathematically smaller. The safeties don't have as far to travel to break up a pass. The linebackers take up more relative space in the middle of the field.
That makes sense.
Therefore, the receivers' breaks on their routes have to be violently crisp. The quarterback's anticipation has to be flawless. It forces them to operate with precision rather than just relying on sheer track star speed.
It's a pressure cooker. But logistics-wise, I see a glaring issue here. The text mentions that not every single NFL franchise might have the depth to send a full 7-on-7 squad of just rookies and sophomores.
That's true.
If I'm the Rams and I traded away all my draft picks for a veteran, I might only have 3 eligible guys. How do we form actual teams?
What's fascinating here is the proposed solution to that logistical hurdle. Just like the NBA Summer League, the NFL would likely start with limited centralized teams. If a single franchise can't field a full squad, you combine them.
The source explicitly says even if we have to make up random names for marketing reasons, the players will play.
Yep.
So I'm picturing a scenario where you have like Team Apex or Team Velocity, and it features the draft picks from the Bears, the Falcons, and the Raiders, all suddenly thrust into the same huddle, trying to run the same playbook.
And think about the sheer evaluative power of that scenario.
Yeah.
You are forcing a rookie quarterback from Ohio State, drafted by the Bears, to suddenly collaborate and execute under pressure with a rookie wide receiver from Alabama, drafted by the Falcons.
Who he met like 3 days ago.
Exactly. It completely strips away the comfort zone of their college systems. It tests their football IQ, their adaptability, and their ability to communicate with unfamiliar teammates.
That's fascinating.
Right. A scout watching that game isn't just looking at throwing mechanics. They're looking at whether that quarterback can command a huddle of strangers and get them aligned correctly before the play clock expires.
That is an incredible stress test. Now let's talk about where this stress test actually happens. The source text explicitly names Florida, Texas, California, or Nevada as the ideal host locations, centralized cities.
Yeah.
Why these specific states? I mean, I love a good summer trip to Ohio or New York. Why rule them out?
It comes down to 2 unyielding demands of the NFL: optimal television broadcasting and logistical feasibility. These 4 states offer structural advantages that you simply cannot replicate in the Northeast or Midwest during May.
So it starts with the weather.
First, the weather. It is reliably warm and dry. This product relies on speed, agility, and the aesthetics of elite athletes performing in pristine conditions. A rainout or a cold snap ruins the broadcast value of a flag football game.
Plus, players playing in hard-shell helmets and no pads probably don't want to be diving around on frozen or muddy turf.
Exactly. Second, consider the existing infrastructure. Texas, Florida, and California are the epicenters of massive, state-of-the-art high school and college football facilities.
You don't need a giant NFL stadium.
No, you don't need to open an 80,000-seat NFL stadium to host a 7-on-7 summer league. In fact, doing so would make the broadcast look empty and depressing. You want an intimate, visually popping venue, maybe a 15,000-seat stadium in Texas that looks completely packed on camera, creating a high-energy professional broadcast environment.
It's the aesthetic of exclusivity, a packed house under the lights. And what about time zones? The source mentions Nevada and California.
Time zones are the third critical factor. California and Nevada offer Pacific time, Texas is Central, Florida is Eastern. By strategically utilizing these locations, the league can optimize primetime viewing across the entire country.
So a game kicking off at 7 p.m. in Nevada is perfectly timed for the 10 p.m. late-night sports audience on the East Coast.
Exactly, leading right into those empty summer evenings where there's literally no other live competition on television.
It is a broadcaster's absolute dream, but, and this is a massive multi-million-dollar but, we have to talk about risk. Shrinking the field, combining rosters, and picking sunny host cities is all well and good. But how on earth does the NFL protect these high-value rookie assets from suffering catastrophic career-ending injuries in what is essentially a glorified summer exhibition?
That is the big question.
If a team's new franchise quarterback shreds his knee in a flag football game in May, the fan base would riot, the general manager would be fired, and the league would shut the whole thing down.
That is the existential threat to any offseason proposal. The NFL is a business of asset management. The source text addresses this head-on with a series of very strict, non-negotiable medical and gameplay mechanics.
This is where the transition from traditional violent football to a highly specialized developmental showcase really takes shape.
Yes. Let's break down those mechanics, starting with the equipment, or rather the distinct lack of it.
The text is very clear. No pads. Period. The players wear only soft hardshell helmets for, quote, just-in-case moments. Explain the physics of this to me. Why the hardshell helmet if there is no tackling?
Taking the traditional rigid shoulder pads and hard polycarbonate helmets off drastically alters the physics of the game. It completely removes the weaponization of the equipment.
Because in a normal NFL game, a defender uses their hard helmet as a battering ram.
Exactly. Without pads, players naturally protect their own bodies more, reducing the velocity of incidental collisions. However, the soft, hard-shell helmets, similar to the padded headgear you see in elite rugby or modern 7-on-7 passing camps, are essential because football still involves verticality.
Right, two guys jumping for a pass in the end zone.
Precisely. If a wide receiver and a cornerback both leap 40 inches in the air to catch a fade route, their heads might accidentally collide on the way down, or one might hit the turf hard. The soft hard shell mitigates blunt force trauma from accidental incidental contact while ensuring no player feels invincible enough to launch themselves like a missile.
So it's purely a skill showcase, but with a safety net for gravity. But to guarantee that safety, the actual rules of the game have to fundamentally change. You can't just play normal football without pads and hope nobody gets hurt.
No, you can't.
The source lays out some incredibly specific timing-based mechanics that I want to dissect. First up, a 6-second timer per play.
This is perhaps the most crucial mechanical rule in the entire proposal. The text explicitly states 6-sec timer since the NFL is elite.
Let's actually visualize how long 6 seconds is in a live football context. 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I'm a quarterback standing in the pocket and I have the ball for 6 whole seconds, I feel like I could order a pizza, check my email, and then throw a touchdown. That is an absolute eternity.
It is an eternity. Let's break down the cognitive load of a quarterback. In a standard full-contact NFL game, a quarterback typically has 2.5 to roughly 3.2 seconds to get rid of the ball before the defensive line collapses the pocket and buries him.
Right, it's incredibly fast.
By second 1, he is reading the safeties. By second 2, he is checking his primary receiver. By second 3, he is moving to his check down option or preparing to take a hit. By implementing a 6-second absolute maximum in this summer league, the league forces a definitive end to the play.
Why not just let them play until someone pulls a flag?
Because if you let a play extend beyond 6 seconds, the structure of the offensive play breaks down. It devolves into the scramble drill. The quarterback starts running around in circles, receivers break off their designed routes and just start sprinting randomly to get open, and defenders start changing direction wildly.
And that's where the injuries happen.
Yes. That chaos, the sudden, unpredictable deceleration and change of direction, is exactly where non-contact injuries like Achilles tears and ACL ruptures occur. The 6-second whistle ensures the play remains a structured, predictable rep. If the ball isn't out in 6 seconds, the play is dead.
That makes perfect sense mechanically. But the defense isn't just standing around for those 6 seconds. The rules state 2 massive defensive restrictions. No press coverage allowed. And no blitzing before 3 seconds.
And we must include the direct corollary to the blitz rule. No. The quarterback cannot run until he is actually blitzed.
Okay, I want to really unpack this sequence because it changes the entire geometry of the sport. Let's say the ball is snapped. For the first 3 seconds, it is a pure, unadulterated passing clinic. Let's define press coverage for the listener so we understand what's missing here.
Press coverage is when a defensive back stands nose-to-nose with a wide receiver directly on the line of scrimmage. At the snap of the ball, the defender forcefully strikes the receiver's chest with their hands to jam them, physically disrupt their timing, and throw off the trajectory of their route before they can even take 2 steps.
It's physical combat immediately.
Yes. By banning press coverage, the defender has to play off coverage. They have to line up a few yards back and rely purely on their footwork, hip fluidity, and ability to read the receiver's body language without ever touching them.
So, no jamming at the line. The linebackers cannot rush the passer for 3 seconds. The quarterback cannot scramble to buy time for 3 seconds. The game is essentially frozen in a state of pure cerebral processing. It is 100% about the quarterback reading the field geometry and the receiver running a mathematically perfect route.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of talent evaluation, this shift from physical domination to mental processing is profound. In college football, the talent disparity is massive.
Oh, absolutely.
A highly touted wide receiver drafted in the first round might have gotten away with incredibly sloppy, rounded-off routes in college simply because he was 220 pounds and could physically stiff-arm a 180-pound cornerback out of his way.
He used brute strength to mask bad technique.
Exactly. But here, in the summer sevens, with absolutely zero contact allowed and no press to fight through, the evaluation changes. The general manager watching from the stands gets to see if that receiver actually understands the geometry of the route tree. Can he drop his hips and cleanly snap off a 15-yard comeback route?
Yeah.
Does he know how to get open against a pro-level cornerback when he isn't allowed to push off?
Or conversely, let's look at the linebackers. We always hear about linebackers needing to cover the flats. What does that actually entail in this setup?
The flats are the short areas of the field outside the hash marks near the sidelines. It is incredibly difficult for a 240-pound linebacker to cover the flats because it requires them to run sideways, flipping their hips away from the middle of field where they usually hunt running backs.
It's unnatural for them.
Without the chaos of 300-pound linemen crashing into them, can that drafted linebacker cleanly drop into the flats, read the quarterback's eyes, and stay in phase with a professional tight end operating in open space? You are isolating the pure spatial awareness of these athletes.
I hear all of that, and the theory is sound. But I have to ask the skeptical question here, the one the old school scouts are definitely grumbling about in the back of the room. If you completely take away the physicality, the jamming, the hand fighting, the sheer terror of a 250-pound edge rusher trying to decapitate the quarterback, are you really evaluating a professional football player? Or are you just evaluating a track star in cleats? How much can a general manager truly, honestly learn from a flag football environment?
That is the exact philosophical debate that will rage in the scouting departments. And the nuanced answer is, you aren't learning everything, but you are learning the foundational things that are impossible to fix if they are broken.
Explain that. What can't you fix?
You can't fix slow mental processing. In a live game, if a quarterback panics under pressure, you don't know if he panicked because he was afraid of getting hit or if he panicked because he couldn't mathematically process the zone coverage in his brain. In the 7-on-7 setup, fear of physical pain is removed. So if the quarterback still misreads a basic cover 2 defense when he has a clean pocket in 3 seconds of unbothered time, the coaches immediately know they have a massive cognitive problem on their hands.
So you learn the baseline mental processing speed of your investment. It's not the whole picture of a football player, but it's a vital diagnostic piece of the puzzle that is incredibly hard to isolate during a chaotic, full-contact training camp in August.
Right. And speaking of that multi-million-dollar investment, there's another layer of protection the text brings up that I found structurally brilliant: the medical and financial protections. It mentions a proper inspection by the team's physicians early.
This is a critical point that differentiates this league from everything else. Usually, teams get their comprehensive medical data at the Combine in February.
Right, which we established as an evaluation of, should we buy this asset? It's a pass-or-fail physical before the draft, like a home inspector walking through a house before you close escrow. Oh, the roof is leaking, let's lower the asking price.
Exactly. But this new early post-draft inspection mandated right before the summer sevens. This is philosophically different. The escrow is closed, the team owns the house. This medical evaluation is about, what is our proprietary renovation plan?
The source text specifically phrases it as evaluating from the beginning on how to better the player for the team.
How does that look in practice?
It means the team's head athletic trainer and orthopedic surgeons map out the rookie's biomechanics. Your left hip is tighter than your right, which is slowing down your brake on in-braking routes. We're going to design a specific localized physical therapy regimen for you to execute during the summer league so that by August you are symmetric. It's proactive optimization, not just passive evaluation.
But what if the worst-case scenario happens? We can ban tackling, we can ban press coverage, we can put them in hardshell helmets, but non-contact injuries still happen. A receiver plants his foot to make a cut on the 50-yard field, and an Achilles tendon pops. It happens. If that happens, the team is devastated, right? But the text proposes an injury insurance policy specifically designed for this tournament. And it explicitly states that any injury sustained here won't hit your CAP or CBA.
That sentence right there, that specialized insurance carve-out, is the financial magic trick that gets the billionaire owners to actually agree to this league.
We need to explain how the salary cap works to understand why this is so revolutionary.
Yes, let's break down the CBA and the cap because it dictates everything a front office does.
The NFL operates on a hard salary cap, negotiated through the collective bargaining agreement or CBA. That means every team has a strict mathematical ceiling on what they can spend on player salaries in a given year. If you draft a rookie and give him a $20 million guaranteed signing bonus, that money is locked into your cap space.
If that rookie tears his Achilles in a meaningless summer flag football game under normal rules, he goes on injured reserve. But his massive salary still counts against your team's salary cap.
Which means I now have $20 million of dead money sitting in a hospital bed, and I physically do not have the cap space to go out and sign a veteran replacement to actually play the position on Sundays. My season is mathematically ruined before it begins.
Precisely. It paralyzes a front office. But by creating this specialized Summer Sevens injury insurance policy, the league removes the financial terror from the equation.
Yeah.
The policy dictates that if a player suffers a season-ending injury during this specific summer exhibition, the insurance company covers the financial payout to the player, and the league grants the team an immediate cap exemption.
Wow. So the risk is completely quarantined.
It creates a localized risk bubble. The player still gets his guaranteed money, so the Players Association is happy, and the team gets their salary cap space instantly refunded so they can go sign a replacement, so the general manager is happy. It indemnifies the franchise against the catastrophic financial risk of summer development.
It is brilliant risk management. So we've got the skill players, the quarterbacks, the receivers, the defensive backs running mathematically precise routes, looking spectacular in their hardshell helmets, safely protected by insurance and 6-second timers. They are getting all the primetime camera angles. But wait a minute, we are missing half the roster.
The foundation of the sport.
Exactly. If this 7-on-7 game is purely for the skill guys, what happens to the massive athletes who actually dictate who wins and loses real football games? The 320-pound offensive tackles, the 290-pound defensive tackles. They don't just go home and sit on the couch while the skinny guys get primetime television and endorsement deals.
They absolutely do not. And this is arguably the most hardcore, purist football element of the entire proposal. The Film Room Remix proposes that the heavyweights get their own entirely separate but equally televised stage. The text calls it the Trench Olympics.
I love that name so much, the Trench Olympics. It sounds brutal, archaic, but in a highly technical, scientific way.
It is the ultimate basic skills challenge specifically designed for the absolute largest human beings on the planet. Because you're right, no matter how fast a receiver runs, traditional football is won and lost by the leverage battle at the line of scrimmage. You cannot have a comprehensive rookie developmental showcase and completely ignore the foundational pieces of the roster.
So mechanically, how does this work? They obviously can't play a game.
Right. While the skill players are running their 7-on-7 tournament, the linemen are participating in televised, highly specific, isolated tactical drills. Let's look at the list the source provides, because it is wonderfully detailed and paints a picture of pure physical mechanics. We're talking pass rush one-on-ones, hand-fighting drills, sled work, footwork ladder drills, leverage drills.
Let's translate some of these, because watching a 300-pound man do a leverage drill sounds fascinating. What is the physical mechanic of a leverage drill?
In the trenches, the universal law of physics is low man wins. Leverage is entirely about center of gravity. A 330-pound offensive lineman standing straight up can be easily pushed backward by a 260-pound defensive end who gets underneath his shoulder pads and drives upward. A leverage drill isolates this specific mechanic.
So they literally lock up.
Yes, two massive men lock up, and the evaluator watches their hip flexibility, their knee bend, and their hand placement. Can the offensive lineman drop his anchor, literally lowering his hips to absorb a shockwave of force without losing his balance?
It's a masterclass in positional isolation. What about hand-fighting drills?
Hand fighting in the NFL trenches is essentially close-quarters martial arts occurring inside a phone booth. A defensive end tries to swipe or club the offensive lineman's wrists away so he can turn the corner and sack the quarterback. The hand-fighting drill strips away the running, the tackling, and the play call and just puts two men face-to-face, forcing them to violently parry each other's hand strikes in rapid succession. The scouts are looking for heavy hands, quick reflexes, and punch timing.
It's like, okay, imagine a high-stakes reality TV cooking competition. Think Top Chef or Hell's Kitchen. Usually, when you watch an NFL game on Sunday, you see the final beautiful plate of food, you see the perfectly thrown touchdown pass, you don't see the offensive lineman subtly shifting his weight to block a stunt.
That's a great comparison.
But the Trench Olympics, that's when the judges strip away all the fancy ingredients, all the beautiful sauces, hand the chefs a pile of raw, unpeeled onions, set a timer, and say, "Show me your fundamental knife skills right now."
That is a perfect analogy for what is happening mechanically. You are looking purely at the foundational technique required to even attempt to cook the final meal. Let's take the OL versus DL mirror drills mentioned in the text. This is a fascinating isolation exercise.
Break down the mirror drill. What is happening on the field?
In a mirror drill, the offensive lineman isn't even allowed to grab or fully block the defensive lineman. The defensive lineman rapidly shuffles side to side, randomly darting left and right. The offensive lineman is simply tasked with matching his lateral movements perfectly, staying squarely in front of him, keeping his shoulders parallel, without crossing his feet or relying on holding the defender's jersey.
So it tests sheer foot speed, balance, and reactive agility for men who weigh over 300 pounds. It's dancing. It's incredibly aggressive, high-stakes dancing.
It absolutely is. And then there are the more intellectual components of the trench Olympics, like pass set versus rush and run gap positioning.
How is a run gap drill intellectual? Isn't it just pushing a guy out of the way?
Yeah. Not at the professional level. Run gap positioning is a test of applied geometry. It isn't just about pushing a guy. It's about understanding the specific mathematical angle you need to take to seal a hole that doesn't even exist yet, based purely on where the running back is theoretically designed to run.
Okay, I see.
If the play is designed to go outside the left tackle, the left guard doesn't need to push the defensive tackle backward. He needs to push him at a precise 45-degree angle to the right to create a physical wall. The scouts want to see exactly who struggles with the basic geometry of the NFL playbook.
And who is fundamentally sound before they ever put on a pad. The text makes a great point here about the coaching aspect of these drills, too. It notes that players get to work with unfamiliar players, guys who might be their teammates in the future, and they get NFL coaching on a general basis, since the coaches present may or may not be their direct team-assigned position coach.
Which is an incredible cross-pollinating developmental tool. Imagine an offensive tackle drafted by the Seattle Seahawks. For this summer league, he is placed on a centralized team, and he is suddenly getting rigorous technique corrections from a legendary, grizzled, veteran offensive line coach employed by the Baltimore Ravens.
That player is absorbing a completely different philosophical perspective on how to play the game. He's learning a universal standard of elite NFL play, not just his own specific team's localized jargon.
Exactly. It raises the baseline competency of the entire rookie class.
I'll tell you this. If you are a hardcore football fan listening to this, the Trench Olympics is your absolute goldmine. This is how you find out who the real sleepers are months before the season even begins.
Oh, without a doubt.
You watch a fifth-round defensive tackle out of a tiny Division II school completely undress a first-round guard from Alabama in a one-on-one hand-fighting drill in May. You see the raw technique on live television, and suddenly you have the ultimate bragging rights in your fantasy league or your fan group. You drafted him in your dynasty league because you saw his knife skills on Top Chef before anyone else did.
It feeds the analytical fan perfectly. The fan who doesn't just want to see the touchdown catch on a highlight reel, but wants to understand how the pocket was kept clean for those crucial 3 seconds to allow the catch to happen in the first place.
Okay, so we have a massive operation on our hands. We have the skill players executing precise routes in the 7-on-7 rules. We have the heavyweights battling physics in the Trench Olympics drills. We have the brilliant insurance mechanics and the broadcast strategy locking down the host cities. But an event of this scale, utilizing raw, newly minted professionals who are still figuring out how to be adults, requires immense leadership on the field.
It's a huge undertaking.
It is. Who is actually running the show? Because this is where the source text flips the traditional NFL hierarchy completely upside down, and the psychological ramifications of it are fascinating.
It is a radical departure from the norm. Let's look at the head coaches, the men who normally earn $10 to $15 million a year to rigidly control every single blade of grass on their practice fields. Men who are famously obsessive micromanagers.
According to the rules laid out in the text, no head coach is allowed. Well, let me clarify. The text says they can physically be in the stadium, but they are strictly, unequivocally forbidden to coach.
Their role is strictly limited to being observational and evaluative.
You are telling me that an NFL owner who just paid a head coach $15 million a year to win games and save the franchise is going to be okay with an assistant coach running his new $35 million star rookie quarterback through live television drills? How does that power dynamic not immediately explode?
It's definitely a clash.
I'm just picturing a legendary, old-school, control-freak head coach. He's standing behind a velvet rope on the sideline. He's got his binoculars. He sees his newly drafted, franchise-saving quarterback completely misread a basic cover 2 zone defense, throw a terrible interception, and the head coach isn't allowed to scream at him or fix his footwork. He just has to passively take a note on a clipboard. That has to be psychological torture.
It absolutely contradicts their entire professional nature, which is built on immediate correction and asserting dominance. However, if we connect this to the bigger picture of organizational health, the logic behind this restriction is multi-layered and brilliant for the franchise as a whole. First, it forces the head coach to adopt a macro perspective.
Explain the macro perspective.
During a normal training camp in August, a head coach is bogged down in the micro details. He is managing the practice schedule, blowing the whistle, yelling at the punter, and worrying about the sheer logistics of moving 90 men around a field. By stripping away their right to coach in the summer sevens, it forces them to act like the CEO observing the factory floor from the catwalk rather than the foreman yelling on the assembly line.
That's a great way to look at it.
They can quietly evaluate the holistic movement, processing speed, and emotional resilience of their new assets without the distraction of actually running the drill.
Okay, I see the value in that forced delegation. But if the head coach is silenced, who is actually holding the clipboard?
This is where the league-wide developmental aspect truly shines. The text specifies that offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, and most importantly, lower-level position coaches take the reins. They are the ones legally allowed to coach the summer sevens.
The source notes, lesser coaches get that play-calling experience early with critique before the season.
This is a massive, incredibly valuable crucible for the coaching pipeline. Think about the career trajectory of a 28-year-old assistant quarterbacks coach. Usually, his job is fetching coffee, breaking down late-night film for the offensive coordinator, and maybe running a soft-toss drill in practice. In the summer sevens, that 28-year-old assistant might suddenly be named the offensive play caller for a nationally televised game featuring the #1 overall pick.
The pressure on that young coach must be astronomical.
Tremendous pressure, but it's safe pressure. Let's break down the mechanics of play calling. It's not just picking a play off a laminated sheet. You have a 40-second play clock. You have to analyze the defensive substitution, select the correct play based on the down and distance, articulate a 15-word, complex, coded play call clearly into the headset radio before the radio cuts off at the 15-second mark, and ensure the rookie quarterback actually understood it.
It's total cognitive overload.
Exactly. This summer league allows that young coach to learn the rhythm of calling plays, managing the 6-second mechanical clock of the 7-on-7 rules, and dealing with live game flow when things go wrong. And crucially, he gets to do it, as the text notes, with critique before the season. The silenced head coach in the luxury suite is evaluating not just the rookie quarterback's arm strength, but the young assistant coach's emotional composure over the headset. It is a live-fire audition for the future offensive coordinators of the league.
That is an incredible infrastructure for talent development on both sides of the headset. And there's a deeper, more sociological mentorship angle here, too. The text mentions managing these new players into an environment of, this is how you carry yourself in the NFL.
Yes, and this is perhaps the most underrated aspect of rookie development. We have to remember that these draft classes are a melting pot. These 21-year-olds are coming from vastly diverse collegiate cultures.
Right. You have a left tackle who comes from a massive militaristic SEC program where every minute of his day, his diet, his sleep, and his classes were rigidly controlled by a staff of 50 people.
Precisely. And in the very same huddle, you might have a wide receiver from a relaxed, wide-open spread offense program in a smaller conference who basically just got by on pure, unadulterated athletic talent and has never had to study a playbook thicker than a comic book.
So you have institutionalized players mixing with pure freelancers.
And suddenly, these young assistant coaches are tasked with taking this chaotic cultural melting pot and teaching them a universal standard of professional behavior, how to properly study an opponent in the film room, how to take harsh, public, constructive criticism without emotionally folding, how to physically recover your body with hydration and therapy between intense drills.
They're essentially teaching a course called Being a Professional Athlete 101.
Yes, they are mentoring them into the stark reality of the NFL, where you are treated as an independent contractor, not a coddled college student. And simultaneously, the young coaches themselves are refining their unique pedagogical styles. If a rookie receiver drops a pass, does the young coach pull him aside and teach him quietly? Does he yell at him in front of the team to test his toughness? This summer league is a psychological laboratory for coaching philosophy.
It's a laboratory for everything. Honestly, listening to the mechanics of this, it sounds like an absolute utopian dream. It's great for the fans who are starving for content. It's great for the rookies who want to prove their worth on a national stage without getting concussed. And it's a golden ticket for young coaches trying to climb the treacherous NFL ladder. But we have to step out of the utopia and come back down to the harsh reality of the NFL. Because in a league with this many massive egos, entrenched hierarchies, and billions of dollars at stake, someone is going to absolutely despise this idea.
And the author of the source text acknowledges this reality perfectly. It explicitly anticipates pushback from a very specific, very powerful, and very vocal demographic.
Yeah.
The established veteran players.
Right. The text blatantly says, I'm sure there will be vet pushback. My immediate question is, why? Why would a 10-year veteran, an established all-pro linebacker who is probably enjoying his off-season vacation in Cabo San Lucas with his family in May, care if a bunch of 21-year-olds are playing non-contact flag football in Florida? How does that affect him?
Because the NFL is not a fraternity. It is an intensely competitive, zero-sum financial ecosystem. Every dollar a team spends on a rookie is a dollar they cannot spend on a veteran. Imagine the psychology of a 28-year-old starting wide receiver. He's entering the final year of his contract. He has bled for the franchise, played through injuries, and established himself. Suddenly, his team drafts a flashy 21-year-old receiver in the first round.
His direct, mathematically cheaper replacement.
Exactly. Now, under the current system, that rookie quietly learns the ropes behind closed doors in training camp. The veteran can assert his dominance in practice. But under the Summer Sevens proposal, the league is handing that rookie a nationally televised, highly marketed, primetime summer stage to showcase his elite speed to the entire world.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You are giving the replacement a primetime network television commercial to explicitly demonstrate why the team might not need to pay the veteran a massive contract extension next year.
It threatens their leverage. Furthermore, there is a deep-seated traditional hierarchy in NFL locker rooms. Rookies are meant to be seen and not heard. They carry the veterans' shoulder pads after practice. They pay for the extravagant rookie dinners. They have to earn their respect by taking a real hit on Sunday afternoon. The Summer Sevens elevates these rookies to superstar status prematurely in the eyes of the veterans. They are getting endorsement deals and primetime analysis based on playing flag football. The veterans will view it as unearned glorification.
That makes total sense from a locker room sociology perspective. The vets will be fuming. But the text provides the ultimate, undeniable counterargument, the absolute trump card to any veteran complaint. It says, if there is a financial gain in participating in some way, then let young bulls get their money. And then it drops the most ruthless, accurate sentence in the whole piece to summarize the league's stance. It's business, nothing personal.
It's business, nothing personal.
Mm-hmm.
That 7-word phrase is the foundational governing philosophy of the National Football League.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me because it pulls back the curtain on the sports industry. The NFL isn't a charity, and despite what the marketing says, it isn't a sentimental brotherhood when the chips are down. It is a multi-billion-dollar entertainment corporation tasked with infinite growth. And against that mandate, veteran sentiment doesn't stand a chance.
The financial and marketing advantages of this summer league are so staggeringly massive that the league will steamroll any veteran pushback. The NFL is essentially creating a brand new television property out of thin air. They're monetizing the month of May.
Let's follow the money here. Where are the new revenue streams coming from?
They are entirely net new. First, broadcasting rights. Networks like ESPN, Fox, or Amazon would pay hundreds of millions of dollars for the exclusive rights to broadcast live football in May. Second, sponsorships. Every jersey, every 50-yard field, every hardshell helmet can be sponsored. Third, ticketing and tourism for the centralized host cities in Florida and Texas. And fourth, exclusive merchandise for these temporary Team Apex-style squads. It's an entire secondary economy.
And when the veterans inevitably complain through the Players Association that this is unfair glorification of unproven rookies, what does the league do?
The league utilizes the sheer momentum of the financial gain. They will prioritize market expansion and asset evaluation, and they will simply buy the veterans' compliance. The league will sit down with the union and say, hey, a rising tide lifts all boats. We will allocate a specific percentage of the Summer Sevens broadcasting revenue directly into the general player pool, which raises the overall salary cap for next year. This new TV deal literally pays for your next contract.
Let the young bulls get their money so we can get ours. It is ruthless, but it is impeccably logical. The NFL is sitting on an anticipation gold mine, and they are simply not the type of business to leave gold in the ground because a veteran might get his feelings hurt by the mining equipment.
Exactly. Conceptually speaking, the financial incentive makes a league like this an absolute inevitability in some form.
The agony of anticipation and wishful thinking. That was the phrase from the text that really hooked me at the very beginning of this deep dive. And looking at the totality of this blueprint, it's remarkably clear how effectively this mechanical concept completely obliterates that agony for the fan.
It fundamentally replaces the agony of waiting with the thrill of verifiable action.
Let's do a quick synthesis of everything we've unpacked here, because the scope of the Film Room Remix proposal is really staggering when you put all the mechanical and financial pieces together. They haven't just suggested playing a game, they have meticulously designed a system. They solve the off-season content drought by aggressively targeting the wide-open May and June sports viewing window.
They've created appointment television where there was previously nothing but empty speculation and baseless think pieces.
Right. And they've done it while building an intricate fortress to protect their most valuable financial investments. The strict non-contact rules, the fascinating biomechanical shift of the 6-second timer, the soft hard-shell helmets, the elimination of press coverage, and that absolute genius localized injury insurance carve-out to protect the salary cap. All of it ensures that the rookies are heavily tested mentally and spatially without being destroyed physically.
And we cannot overlook the developmental dual track. You don't just have the skill players refining their cognitive processing speed in the 7-on-7 geometry. You also have the heavyweights mastering their foundational biomechanical techniques, the leverage, the hand fighting, the footwork in the heavily isolated trench Olympics.
All while an entire hungry generation of young assistant coaches gets invaluable live-fire play calling and leadership experience, while the famously controlling head coaches are forced to sit in the luxury suites, keep their mouths shut, and evaluate the macro health of their franchise. It is a complete structural remix.
It proves that even in a corporate sports system, as old, wealthy, and stubbornly established as the NFL, there are always incredibly innovative ways to interrogate the process. It is a testament to the power of asking, could the system work better mechanically? The answer, as laid out in this blueprint, is a resounding yes. You don't just have to accept that May is boring, you can build a new machine to monetize it.
So, what does this all mean for the future of the sport? As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought to mull over. Something that builds on the mechanics we've discussed today. Let's operate under the assumption that this happens. Let's say the NFL successfully launches this highly televised, wildly popular summer development league. The 7-on-7s and the Trench Olympics become the new gold standard for proving a rookie's cognitive and technical worth before actual training camp even begins.
A massive, industry-wide paradigm shift.
Right. If that happens at the professional level, how long until we see a massive, unavoidable ripple effect all the way down the developmental chain? How long until major college football programs, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Georgias, realize they need to fundamentally change their own spring training formats? Do college programs stop running traditional violent spring scrimmages and instead start running their own non-contact 7-on-7s and specialized trench Olympics?
They'd almost have to, because their ultimate goal is to prep their outgoing seniors for the NFL's specific evaluation metrics.
Exactly. If the NFL proves that they value the 6-second cognitive processing test over a violent Oklahoma drill, the colleges will adapt instantly to supply what the NFL is demanding. Does the remix of the professional league force a complete top-to-bottom remix of how the college game teaches the sport?
That is the beautiful nature of evolution in any highly competitive industry. One structural adaptation inevitably forces a systemic response.
And it all starts with filling the void. Keep your eyes on the evolution of the sports calendar because the agonizing weight of the offseason might just be a thing of the past.